It's Rob Bauer from Sharp College Football, and we're back. Let's do another Saturday 6. So, if this is your first time tuning in, let me run you through real quick. So, the Saturday 6 is that's supposed to turn off. It's a preview show for the coming college football games for the week. We're going to run through 6 games from an advanced stats perspective. All the stats you're going to see are from BetaRank, an advanced stat system for college football that controls for at least opponent and field position on all the metrics you'll see. I'm Rob Bauer, and I'm the econometrician behind BetaRank. I've got it set. We try to do at about 5 minutes per game. I don't think I usually make that, but I'm not bad. I'm not super far off, but it does try to keep the show to a reasonable amount of time instead of just rambling on. But really, I'm super excited. The model went 54% against the spread last week, was, just right on what the mean average error was from Vegas for the week. And I'm excited. We're going to get, we get another, this is when the model really starts to heat up. It's all in-season data at this point. There is no projections in there, no Bayesian weighting. I don't run in out of game, or what I would call out of sample data, from this point from the point of week 5, so last week forward. I'm really excited for what we're going to see this week. And as the headline says, we have a really, really big game this week in Alabama and Tennessee. There's some other really good games too. And, some of these teams you're going to see ranked higher in human polls than you are going to see in beta rank right now. But those are also critical, interesting games as we look to figure out who's going to be contending, in various conferences. But the game that I think is, I'm so, and really too, it's funny because we didn't realize at the time, of course, because it was not until that game against Alabama that we had an inkling that Texas might actually be pretty darn good this year. We did get a chance to see Texas and Alabama in what turned out to be a really good game that we didn't quite understand at the time. But looking back, was a phenomenal game that we got to have early on in the season. And now we get another one, and the Crimson Tide are also involved. And I can't spend too much time talking about that because I got to actually cover the dang game. That's just life. But this week too, as we come out of this one, you still do have a handful. We're going to cover one of them today. You still do have a handful of teams like Rice, TCU, Oklahoma State that only have 4 FBS games in the model at this point. There's still going to be some more variance around those teams. So if you're going around and looking at a number and you think that's crazy, beta rank's way wrong. I may be, but check and see how many FBS games they've played up to this point in the season. Teams with fewer games in we're going to be less sure on. What is interesting is we start to get in is we have teams that already have 6 games in the model. We have a pretty good idea of where those teams are. Now there's going to be some adjustments. Some of the games that they have played up to this point, and Ohio State's a great example, currently number 1 in beta rank. They've played some relatively speaking low information games of late, right? Games that are just blowouts. We really need to see their offense and defense against some better units than they played of late. We're going to get to see them when they come back off their bye, first against Iowa and then against Penn State, 2 very good defenses. That should give us a really good idea of where their ceiling is. But some of these games we're going to get to see this week are also going to give us some really good ideas of where the ceilings are, for some of these teams, as we get to see them against some really good competition. So let's go ahead and hop in. I'm excited to talk about the games this week. So as we talked about, the first game is Alabama at Tennessee. I have it as versus. It's at Tennessee. Nick Saban's your head coach for the Crimson Tide. Josh Heupel's your head coach for Tennessee. Bill O'Brien's your OC here for this Alabama offense, which is pretty good, right? They're sitting at number 6 overall in beta rank. They've taken last year, relatively speaking, was a year where offense took a step back overall within college football. Only Ohio State was sort of in spitting distance of where offenses had been from 2017 through 2021. But this Alabama offense is kind of hanging around even further back from where they were last season. There's definitely been, if you peek all the way down their effective pass number, they're definitely struggling to throw the ball, relatively speaking, even with Bryce Young in there compared to where they've been. But number 6 overall, this is not a terribly efficient offense. And this is where they have to, I think, really improve things coming into this game. Is they're going to have to be able to do better at sustaining long drives to put up points. This drive efficiency number is more middle of the Power 5. They need to be able to turn yards into points at a better rate than they're doing. Explosive drives, though, they're doing a terrific job here, putting up lots of big plays. That certainly helps. That's a major component in beta rank. Offensive play efficiency, this is the least important of the core 4 beta rank metrics. This is your yards per play outside of explosives. They're doing a very good job here, but again, another efficiency type metric, negative drives. They need to do a better job of avoiding 3 and outs, avoiding turnovers. There's some execution problems for this Tide offense this year. Number 2 in effective rush, number 53 in effective pass. I'm operating under the assumption that Bryce Young is going to play in this game. And Bama did get knocked a little bit, of course, for, the beta rank is blind to injury. So they didn't see that the model doesn't see that he didn't play last week against A&M. This Alabama offense might be better than what we have them graded out now, but they still are a real run heavy unit. Bryce Young, though, is doing, when he's asked to throw, 67.2% completion percentage, 9.0 per. He's doing a pretty good job getting the ball down the field. What's interesting is we're going to get a Tennessee defense here under Tim Banks that's made significant strides over where they were last year. Number 30 overall in beta rank right now. Last year, they were a very bad Power 5 defense in the 50s or 60s. They have real room to improve, though, on drive efficiency as well. Kind of struggling there, struggling with explosive drives. Their play efficiency number is not great. What they're doing really well is forcing 3 and outs and forcing turnovers. And this is something that they're going to have to be able to execute on in this game. Where Tennessee has a significant disadvantage, it is here. It is this matchup, the Alabama's offense against their defense. Now, if you're a Tennessee fan and you want to feel good, what Tennessee's defense has been much better at versus defending the pass. They're much better against the run. So if you want to feel good as a Tennessee fan, that's what you can maybe hang your hat on here, is that they might have an advantage, maybe not an advantage. They might have a specialization in stopping the run that might help them a little bit more in this game. Whereas if Alabama came in like last season, throwing the ball around, Tennessee might be in a lot of trouble. Flip it around. This is such a terrific matchup. Josh Heupel is your offensive play caller for Tennessee. They're currently number 3 overall in beta rank offensively. They do a terrific job on drive efficiency. They're able to sustain drives, put up points. They're still a very explosive offense, number 10 overall there. Their play efficiency number is very good. Few too many 3 and outs and turnovers here when we look at negative drives. That's something to maybe watch out for here. And they've actually flipped a little bit. Last season, Heupel was so at UCF, he was a pass-oriented version of the Briles offense and maybe an air raid mashup. Last season, they went real run-heavy with Hendon Hooker and what they had available. This season, they're throwing the ball quite a bit more. 5 in effective pass, number 21 in effective rush. I am so excited because Alabama's defense looks so good right now. Pete Golding's your defensive coordinator here. Now, where they have struggled a little bit is they've definitely given up some points, relatively speaking. This drive efficiency number, they do need to find ways to get off the field, and not give up as many points. That said, all their other numbers are fantastic. They're number 1 in explosive drives, number 1 in play efficiency, 1 in negative drives. They force a lot of 3 and outs and a lot of turns. I should also say these numbers are scaled against whatever the best offense is, because I do always want to convey to people with these numbers that we live in the era of offense, right? This is not, Alabama's not going to show up and shut down Ohio State's offense. That doesn't happen anymore. But number 1 in effective rush, number 2 in effective pass. This is, appointment television. I am so excited to see this game and this side of the ball in particular. Getting to see this Tennessee offense and what they've got, if they have a higher ceiling than we have them at number 3, and where Alabama's defense is, if they're able to show up and slow down this Tennessee offense significantly. Alabama at times has looked as good as, the 2019 Clemson defense, which was, or last year's Georgia defense, both of which we sort of think of as record-setting units. Anyway, Hendon Hooker's your QB, 70% completion percentage, 10.2 per. He's doing a terrific job this season. We've got it at Alabama, just 55% win probability, 1.22 on the road. This should be a really good one. This one will also get a lot of press. It's a little less sexy of a game in the advanced stats. James Franklin's your head coach for Penn State. Jim Harbaugh, of course, is your head coach for Michigan. You get a Michigan offense coming in that's doing a good job. I mean, number 9 overall. This isn't a significant fall off from where they were last season, to be frank. Josh Gaddis was a good, but not, I mean, he was a very good, let's be honest, he was a very good, but not great OC. Matt Weiss has stepped in and done a good job keeping these going and being able to get this, in a lot of ways, keep this offense doing what they do well, which is, I mean, they profile like a very, very good service academy offense in a lot of ways. And I say this is like, you do see them have a pretty high drive efficiency number relative to their yardage type, their advanced stats that we use yardage in. So drive efficiency number is number 6 overall. They do a really good job sustaining drives, putting them together to put up points. Number 17 in explosive drives. They are an explosive-ish offense, but certainly not in the top, 10. 24 in play efficiency. They do a decent job outside of explosives, putting up yards per play. And negative drives, they do a pretty good job here. Very efficient at avoiding 3 and outs and avoiding turnovers. Unsurprisingly, they have a pretty big run pass split here. Number 7 in effective rush. Number 31 in effective pass. You know what you have to do in order to slow Michigan down. I mean, no one to this point has really forced, even Iowa has really forced Michigan to come in and throw the football around. Like, Michigan has been able to come in and largely establish the run. So they get, and I know Iowa's like number 1 in some other advantage. I looked at that and I was like, I don't get it. Iowa's got a good defense this year. They're not great. They may improve it. Like, we'll get to see them against Ohio State. That'll tell us a lot about them, but I don't think they're a top 10 defense right now. Penn State comes in as a top 10 defense right now in beta rank. Manny Diaz is your defensive coordinator. I got to tip my cap to him because I wasn't sure he was a great hire. He's done a really good job continuing what Brent Pry had built in Happy Valley. They do a very good job at drive efficiency. They find ways to get off the field and not give up points. Where they are really susceptible is big plays. Number 40 overall in explosive drives. They've got to find a way, and it may not kill them in this game because Michigan's not an intensely explosive offense, but they've got to find a way to not give up, so many big plays. Michigan, if you're coming into this game, this might be where your opportunity is. You haven't been a big play offense much so far this season. Maybe this is your opportunity to put some up and open this game up a little bit because Penn State does a really good job in play efficiency. They force 3 and outs and turnovers. Not a big run pass split in either direction. They're very competent at both. That's if they can, the question in this side is like, can you force JJ McCarthy, who is, passing at a really good clip, 78.3 completion percentage, 9.6 per. He's not those are all numbers of a guy who's like sitting behind an incredibly efficient run attack. Can you force him? Can you take that run attack away or slow it down to the point where you actually have to have him completing passes to sustain drives in what is more of an obvious passing down? Flip it around. This is a little more interesting here, right? So Penn State's offense, Mike Yurcich is your offensive coordinator here. They're at number 41 overall. This is a middle of the road ish, wrong side of middle of the road Power 5 offense. They've really struggled. I feel like it's maybe not fair to judge Yurcich with Sean Clifford at the QB, but that's what we've got. So second season in a row, they really haven't put it together offensively. They're not doing great at drive efficiency. They're not great at putting up big plays either. The one real standout number that they have here is negative drives. They have been able to avoid 3 and outs and turnovers at a decent clip. They're better running the ball than they are throwing the ball. They're getting a Michigan defense that's okay, right? Like, this isn't let me make sure I occasionally do something like really stupid. And I want to make sure I didn't. And like grab the wrong. I know. And nope, I got them right. Cool. All right. So this Michigan defense is okay. They've definitely taken a little bit of a step back from where they were last year. They have a new defensive coordinator in Jesse Minter. They also had quite a bit of turnover with the players that they had. Where they've struggled though is drive efficiency. You've been able to sustain drives and put up points against this Michigan defense. This Penn State offense, even though they are graded lower, like they should be able to come in and put points up here. This Michigan defense hasn't been anything special so far this season, and for the most part, they haven't played anyone offensively worth a darn. They're 21 in explosive drives, 13 in play efficiency. Their negative drive number is not great. 31 overall, not enough 3 and outs, not enough turnovers. I mean, I should say like they have played Maryland, and Maryland is a pretty good offense. You almost feel like in that game though that if Maryland doesn't have the QB injury, like this Michigan defense might have been in even more trouble. No big run pass split. I'm excited to see this game, I think in particular, because really Michigan has only played one offense with a real pulse. Iowa certainly is not. And then their non-conference competition was just ghastly. But it'll also give us a shot to see this Penn State offense. They have to continue to improve. Otherwise, Penn State's kind of a sitting duck. They might have a little bit of a gaudy ranking. They've got some space between them and some of the other teams in the Big Ten, but they're going to get plastered by Ohio State if they can't show more offensive improvement. Sean Clifford's your QB, 62% completion percentage, 7.5 per. Michigan's got a 72% win probability in this one. We've got it at 7.5. If you can't tell, we have this one different than Vegas and some other models. I don't understand beyond just having preseason projections and continuing to have Utah as a top 10 team. Anyway, Kyle Whittingham is your head coach for Utah. Lincoln Riley is your head coach for USC. Lincoln Riley is also your play caller for USC on offense. Morgan Scalley is your defensive play caller for Utah. USC's offense has been terrific so far this season. Really, I mean, I think there's still headroom for them to grow under Riley. I don't know if they're going to get there this year because I think he's got, some more development and personnel and, installation to do. So getting players up to speed. I am interested to see if they evolve, and their numbers improve over the season. Beta Rank's designed to catch that because it has a time decay built in, an exponential decay. They're decent at drive efficiency. This is a number you'd like to see them improve on. They need to put up more points for the yards that they're putting up. They need to put sustained drives and turn those into points and not just leave money on the table. Number 8 in explosive drives, though. I mean, they've got a terrific wide receiver core. They've got probably, if he came out this year, would probably be the top QB drafted in Caleb Williams. Their play efficiency number is decent, number 28 overall. This isn't killing him too much. It's the least important of the core 4 beta rank metrics. They do a really good job avoiding 3 and outs, avoiding turnovers. They have no big run pass split. Riley's offense, I often like to say, reminds me of the old one back offense that Joe Tiller and say Dennis Erickson used to run. In that you do have something of a spread offense, but you also incorporate a power running game. They get a Utah defense that is struggling. And it was struggling before last week, against a good but not great UCLA. I mean, this UCLA offense is good. It's not great. They're not world beaters. They look like it because they lit up Utah and they lit up Washington. Washington's got a god-awful defense. Utah's got a decent defense, but this is uncharacteristic for this Utah defense. This is the worst defense they've had under Whittingham in a long time. They really need a good game here. They've very much struggled with drive efficiency. You can absolutely sustain drives and put up points against them. They've been very susceptible to explosive drives. They've given up a very good yards per play to this point, not forcing enough 3 and outs, not forcing enough turnovers. No big run pass split here. I mean, like some of the big problems, of course, is that they have the losses in the linebacker core. But the biggest problem, frankly, with these Utah defenses, the defensive line isn't anything special. Now, they were decent last season, but we're going on 3 years since we had a Utah defensive line where you really thought, oh, that guy's going to be at least like a second-day draft pick. They got nobody like that. They haven't had anybody like that. There's some guys that I think people look at and say like they will develop, but they got to turn it around in development. Those guys got to start producing because it's like I said, it's been a couple years since the defensive line was anything special at Utah. Flip it around. The Utah offense are under Andy Ludwig. Alex Grinch is your defensive coordinator for USC. I'm a little more surprised that they're struggling here. Even with the Keithy injury, they're really, they're excellent tight end. There's drive efficiency number. They're struggling. They need to be able to sustain drives to put up points. 28 in explosive drives. They're just not. I mean, this is the real big one here. I mean, they were an efficient offense last season, but they in particular they were an explosive offense. And we'll get to a little bit down like what's really I think missing for them. 39 in play efficiency. They're at 29 in negative drives. They do a pretty good job of, I mean, compared to their drive efficiency number, which is horrible. They do a decent job avoiding 3 and outs and turnovers. What's killing them is their offensive line is not opening up the kind of holes that they had last season. Last season, they were a really efficient run offense. They were able to gouge teams for big plays, keying out of the run game. That's really not there. And with Keithy out, they have limited weapons in the passing game. They get a USC defense. Like I expect them to be able to put up points in this game. USC's defense isn't anything great. They've been creeping up a little bit. They've had some better performances in their games of late. But they're on the run. I mean, this is a decent job of improvement for Alex Grinch, but this is not like a get you to the playoff maybe or win a playoff game type defense unless you get real lucky with turnovers. There's explosive drive number is a big watch out here against Utah. Utah has an advantage here. Utah's going to have to crank out some big plays. 58 in play efficiency, 43 in negative drives. They force a ton of turnovers, but like relatively speaking to like the level of the competition as well as the number of 3 and outs they force, like their number isn't great or where it was. And as you've likely seen, like some of their turnover numbers have started to tail off a little bit from like the astronomical numbers they've had. They have a huge run pass split. This is where I think this game, oh man, internet disconnected. It'll connect back in a second. Or maybe it won't. I apologize. If you're watching this on the video on YouTube, the interlude, anyway, the really big watch out in this game is like USC's, where USC's number looks relatively close, I think, in the overall number here. The effective rush number that you see for USC here is really bad, and Utah is going to have an advantage for here. If Utah is able to line up, and the teams that have largely tested USC have not tested them on the ground. Stanford did. Stanford can't run the ball worth a damn lately. Utah should be able to line up and keep this game closer, I think, because of, in particular, the USC defense struggles stopping the run game. I don't think I called that out. Caleb Williams is hitting at 64.9%, 8.5 per. Cam Rising, Utah's QB, is at 69%, 8.4 per. We've got USC at 77% on the road, 7.22. Keep an eye on the USC run defense, though, because that could be a problem in this game. USC, if they finish -1 on turnovers, they're probably going to lose this one. I think this game's really interesting for a lot of reasons. I mean, one, so it's Dabo Swinney as your head coach for Clemson. Florida State, it's Mike Norvell. One is that the Clemson offense has crept up to being respectable. Number 15 overall in beta rank. Brandon Streeter is your offensive coordinator for them. 16 overall in drive efficiency. They're doing a pretty good job, turning yards into points, right? Like they're not leaving money on the table. They're able to sustain drives. They could certainly improve on their explosive drives number 33 here. This is a little bit of a watch out for them. Clemson to me this is not a vintage Clemson team. They are not really within spitting distance of the top 3 teams in college football. And they'd be a pretty significant underdog to either Alabama, Georgia, or Alabama. But this offensive improvement is quite real and I think interesting. They've been able to cut down on their negative drives, avoiding 3 and outs and avoiding turnovers. They don't have a huge run pass split, but they do lean more into the pass. Uigalele is hitting at 63.9% completion percentage, 7.7 per. What's interesting, I mean, I think this offense and Streeter can't, like, if we're looking at what on the upside this could become, I think this can become a top 10 offense. I don't know if that's this season, but I think Streeter has demonstrated, like, as he's, kind of picking this up, as well as Uigalele, and there is an opportunity to certainly have some better wide receivers and maybe some better run blocking. I think there's the opportunity for Clemson to potentially get there. If you were looking down the road, they get a Florida State defense under Adam Fuller. It's okay. I mean, this is like we just talked about with like the USC defense or the Utah defense. They're on the wrong side of the middle of the Power Five. They really struggle with drive efficiency. You can put together long drives for points against them. Their explosive drives number is not great. The one number that looks okay is their play efficiency number. Unfortunately, just kind of the least important of the four. And they definitely need to force more 3-and-outs, more turnovers. They struggle stopping the run. They're a little bit better against the pass. I mean, I think this is an interesting matchup too. We get to see the Clemson offense again against another defense that at least has a pulse and get to find out more, I think about where Streeter is and where Uigalele is. I think in particular, like as we to think about this Clemson team, I mean, down the stretch, the last couple seasons for like with Dabo, they've recruited really well comparatively, trying to figure out what this program is going to be, even though I don't think this season they're necessarily like a playoff contender, although who knows? I mean, like I mean, it could be a real messy one. Outside, I mean, I think it's going to be an interesting time to and as we try to figure out like what is Clemson going to look like. You flip it around to the other side, and this is where unsurprisingly some of the problems come in for Clemson. But the Mike Norvell's your play caller for this Florida State offense. They're doing a pretty good job, number 19 overall in beta rank. But man, like they are, I mean, this almost looks like a Phil Longo from North Carolina offense. Like it is all home runs. Like they do not sustain drives at all. 70 overall in drive efficiency, 12 in explosive drives. I mean, they could put up some big plays. 19 in play efficiency. They're doing a really good job. Number 15 in negative drives, avoiding 3-and-outs and avoiding turnovers. They're definitely more of a running team. 23 in effective rush versus 32 in effective pass. Jordan Travis is your QB here. 62.8 completion percentage. 9.0 per. He also, of course, with his legs, adds something in the run game. Now you get a Clemson defense under Wes Goodwin. I mean, look, you lost the best defensive coordinator in all of college football in Brent Venables. This is where the worry comes in, right? Like Clemson never did it with offense, right? Like it was always Venables keeping him in it, with excellent defense. This number here, which seems decent at 21 overall, there's a huge gap between where Clemson is and where Clemson was defensively. There are, of course, some personnel losses, but the defensive line is full of guys that you would be thinking of as going in the NFL draft. They struggle to get off the field. Their drive efficiency number is not great. They could definitely do a better job. This is kind of middle of the Power Five and containing big plays, explosive drives. Their play efficiency number is really good, but as we've talked about, that's not the most important. And they definitely need to force more 3-and-outs, more turnovers. They're far better against the run than they are against the pass. I mean, Wake really put them in a blender with that Wake passing offense. Florida State's not going to try to do that to you. They're largely going to have to come out. Jordan Travis might have to win this game a little bit. And we might have to see some of those Florida State wide receivers, have some of the games that maybe we saw them against LSU, that kind of thing. We've got this at Clemson 76% win probability and 7.22. This is a really fun one. Like, it may not actually be all that much fun to watch because, God, Illinois' defense is good. Anyway, and we're going to get to see him against a pretty good Power 5, a decent Power 5 offense for Minnesota. So PJ Flex, your head coach for Minnesota. Brent Bielema is your head coach for Illinois. Kirk Shiraka is your offensive coordinator for Minnesota. He's back. This is a decent number, 25 for them overall. They're very good at drive efficiency. They're able to sustain drives to put up points. That's where they really hang their hat. They are not a terribly explosive offense right now. They are getting Abraham back, which I think is critical for them. 77 in play efficiency and 11 in I mean, this Minnesota offense just executes. Like, they're not flashy. They're not going to put up a ton of big yards. They're going to sustain drives. They're not going to make mistakes. 13 in effective rush. They're at 59 in effective pass. I think one of the differences for this Minnesota team, I mean, there's a couple from the Minnesota team that we remember like winning the Big Ten West when Shiraka and the offense were really rolling for them. They just don't have the playmakers at wide receiver. Like Tanner Morgan, which is a bummer in some ways because like if you took this running game and paired it with a play action passing game that was a real threat, you would really be cooking. But they don't have that. So, and they get just a phenomenal Illinois defense under Ryan Walters, one of the best young defensive coordinators in college football, and a man who should get a head coaching job and maybe a Broyles Award if these numbers hold up. And it's not as if Illinois has faced a bunch of nobodies so far, but I am excited to see him in this game in particular. They're at 19 in drive efficiency. They're doing a pretty good job in finding ways to get off the field, not give up points. But their explosive drive number is outstanding. They really do contain big plays really well. Play efficiency number is pretty good. Negative drives forcing a lot of 3 and outs, a lot of turnovers. They don't have a big run pass split. I'm interested to see what Walters cooks up to try to slow down Ibrahim in this run game. And if they really trust their corners and their pass rush to be able to like maybe stack the box and dare Morgan to beat them. This could be a bit of a slugfest because if we flip it, so Tanner Morgan is at 70.5% completion percentage, 10.2 per. If you flip it around, this is whereas the other one, you're like, oh, this is exciting, right? Like this is a little less exciting. Barry Lunny is your offensive coordinator, came over from UTSA, and I think it's a good hire. I just think he's got a little bit of his work cut out for him here at Illinois. Offensively, the Illini, this is a very, very, very bad Power 5 offense. Like if you were great on a 1 to 65 scale, you are off the scale. Not doing a great job sustaining drives, 83 in drive efficiency. Their explosive drives, they're just not putting up a ton of big plays. They are struggling with play efficiency. Their negative drives, too many 3 and outs, too many turnovers. They have a huge run pass split. It is possible that Tommy DeVito, their QB, might be out in this game. He left, I think, in the first quarter against Iowa. They rely on good field position to be able to put up points for the most part. They need their defense and special teams to be able to set them up in order to be able to put up points. Tommy DeVito is your QB here, maybe, if he plays. He's got 68.9% completion percentage and 7.1 per. They get a Minnesota defense that's actually kind of improved. In the years where Minnesota, in the year where they won it with, they really won it with offense when they won the Big Ten West. Now they've got a unit that is at least in the top 30. Their drive efficiency number is not great. You've been able to sustain drives against this Minnesota defense so far, but they've done a pretty good job containing big plays, number 17 overall in explosive drives. Their play efficiency number is not great, and you can put the decent yards per play up against them, but they do force 3 and outs and they force turnovers. They don't have a huge run pass split. If you're Illinois, you're hoping that like this small run pass split offers some hope against this. Because this is just could be ugly. I should have said Tanner Morgan on the last one. Tanner Morgan's completing 70.5% of his passes, 10.2 per. Tommy DeVito 68.9, 7.1 per. This game is going to likely turn on if anyone can score any kind of big play, any kind of special teams, and literally any turnovers. Like whoever wins the field position battle in this game is probably going to win this game. I'm interested because, like I said, this Illinois defense is putting up terrific numbers so far. Opponent adjusted. We get another shot to see them against a decent opponent. We're going to learn a lot about them. They may not be number 3 overall, but my guess is they're going to finish in the top 12. That's just incredible for what Ryan Walters took over. We've got this as Minnesota, 55% win probability, 1.22. This is one of the things, what I like about doing the Saturday 6 is you get to try to highlight teams that are kind of having an under the radar year within the group of 5. I always try to do one group of 5 game unless there are just 6 incredible worth talking about. Power 5 games for the week. And Rice, now they only have 4 games in the model, but Rice sitting at 70 overall is mind-boggling. Like, Rice has consistently been one of the worst teams in college football for a long time. Mike Bloomgren, their head coach, hasn't radically changed that, but they seem to have something cooking this season. And I figured this is a great time against a decent not Northern Arizona, FAU team, Florida Atlantic. A good time to highlight a team that's, with only and we'll get to see in this game, might be a lot better than we were expecting coming into the season, and might be a real surprise team within college football. And I mean, if you're watching this, you like college football enough that you might actually care that there's a surprise, like a real surprise, honest to God surprise team coming out of like Conference USA. So anyway, Marcus Tuiasosopo, if you're like a Pac-12 fan from back in the day, you'll know that name, is your offensive coordinator for Rice. Willie Taggart's your head coach for FAU. And Todd Orlando is your defensive coordinator for FAU. Offensively, Rice, this is a pretty darn good group of 5 offense in the top, inside the top 50. They do a really good job at drive efficiency, being able to sustain drives, put up points. Now, they're not a terribly explosive offense, number 92 in explosive drives, 105 in play efficiency. This is a really bad number. I mean, like, they are sort of like that Minnesota offense too, and that they really sustain drives. They avoid mistakes. Their negative drives number, not a lot of 3 and outs, not a lot of turnovers, no big run pass split. If you know where Mike Bloomgren came from, like he came over from Stanford back when Stanford was still playing He-Man football, and still able to run the ball really effectively. And in a lot of ways you could argue, because he was also the offensive line coach, that Stanford hasn't been able to run the ball really well since he left. But they don't have a really big run pass split. Their quarterback TJ McMahon, 64% completion percentage, 7.9 per. I mean, this is really Rice, like the engine for Rice grading out well in a lot of ways is this offense right now. They're going to get this defense for FAU that's not bad by group of 5 standards, number 94 overall. They're pretty good at drive efficiency, number 79 there. They are susceptible to big plays. That's going to be interesting here. Rice, which is not a big play offense, are they able to find any big plays in this game? FAU does a good job at play efficiency and a decent job here at negative drives too. Now, is Rice, are they going to be able to hit some big plays in the passing game? Because if you can, that's where FAU has been susceptible so far. 109 in effective pass versus 76 in effective rush. You might come into this game, if you're Rice, hoping that McMahon can hit some plays and get you some points. Flip it around, and these are still pretty good group of 5 numbers. The Brent Dearmon is your offensive coordinator for FAU. They're at 90 overall in beta rank. Now they do sustain drives reasonably well, 75 there. Their explosive drives number is okay. They're a little their play efficiency number is not fantastic at 108, but negative drives, this is where they start to creep up a little bit more. Too many 3 and outs, too many turnovers. They do run the ball more efficiently than they throw it. And that's not surprising. Like N'Kosi Perry is your QB, the transfer in. He's only, remember, this is like modern college football, like where in some of the quarterbacks we've listed off are completing nearly 70 or over 70% of their passes. N'Kosi Perry's at 56.7% completion percentage, 7.4 per. They get a Rice defense under Brian Smith. People are like 75, whatever. Like 75 at Rice is incredible. Like defense is like, you do have to be able to recruit in order to play defense. Defense is more correlated with recruiting than it is returning production. That said, like the fact that Brian Smith and co have been able to put this together, like you're not going to be able to recruit really well here at Rice. Like it is coaching that has gotten them here in large part. What they do really well is contain big plays, number 31 overall in explosive drives. What they struggle with is you can put together long drives to put up points against them. They need to improve their drive efficiency number and find ways not to give up points. Negative drives are not forcing enough 3 and outs, not forcing enough turnovers. they struggle stopping the run, and that's going to make this maybe more of an interesting game than it should. I mean, I don't say should be, but it might make this game a lot tighter. FAU is not a dynamic passing offense. They're going to come in looking to run the football, and Rice really struggles, but they are very good at stopping the pass. It will be interesting to see if Rice trusts their corners enough to come in and stack the box and force N'Kosi Perry to try to beat them through the air. Rice has a 72% win probability in this game, 6.88. That's it. That is the Saturday 6. We did it in 41 minutes. That's not bad. I sometimes go like 50. Anyway, I'm really excited for this week. I mean, of course, like the headline game with Alabama and Tennessee is fantastic. That's the one. I mean, in particular, that matchup of that Alabama defense against that Tennessee offense. But there are some other really good under the radar matchups in here as well. And that are going to decide. I mean, like it is looking right now. I want to see if Alabama can bounce back too. That game last week knocked Alabama was number one in beta rank the week before. And of course, like we're going to have more adjustment. I mean, beta rank adjusts more. And I think this is a good thing. I try to tell people like, listen, I don't have projections sitting around in here. The model is going to make adjustments. Beta rank already makes stronger opponent adjustments than most other systems that you will find. And as a result, as new data comes in, teams might move more than you were expecting week to week. And it may be their game. It may be how some opponents that they had played in the past played, and we've learned a lot more about them. We're going to continue to learn a lot about teams in college football. I'm excited. Like, where is Michigan's defense? Where is Penn State's offense? Do we learn something additional about them this week? Because we're certainly going to get to see them against more quality opponents as the year drags on. In particular, getting to see Penn State against Ohio State in 3 weeks. But yeah, let's wrap it up. I'm excited. There are some, and I don't even know, like there are other, of course, really good games out there as well this season. I would say keep an eye on, if you're going to watch, like Mississippi State, I think is underrated in Vegas, and I think is underrated in some other systems. I think that they're going to beat Kentucky by more if they don't turn the ball over by more than that Vegas spread. Anyway. Yeah. You can find all the stats you just saw and a whole lot more at sharpcollegefootball.com. I'm Rob Bowerin, the econometrician chicken behind BetaRank. And you can find me at BetaRank FB or at Sharp College Football. We have a Pac-12 podcast at 12 Pack Radio. You can find all the back episodes of that at sharpcollegefootball.com/12 Pack Radio. Thank you so much for tuning in. We have also, I should say, like we have FCS rankings out again, and they're real, honest to God FCS rankings, not pseudo beta rank. We have the same quality of data at the same level of data we get for FBS football. The fact that we're able to now deliver this, I'm just so excited. We are, like, FBS football is a little bit behind when they start playing each other and stop playing FBS teams. So we have a little fewer games in for some of the teams in FBS. I'm really excited, though, as we continue to learn more about the FBS and what that looks like this season. We have a huge matchup this week with South Dakota State and North Dakota State. That should be a really fun one. North Dakota State's kind of played with their food the last 2 weeks against, I want to say Southern Illinois. Anyway, and Youngstown. And they've fallen a little bit in FCS banner rank. Anyway, thank you so much for tuning in. Enjoy the games out there this week, and we'll see you next time.